In the Huddle was created to give student athletes, parents and coaches an inside look at the journey through US college sport and all that comes with it. The demands, the experiences, the excitement and the opportunities available to our student athletes from around the world. Study and Play USA facilitates a comprehensive, customised approach for student athletes and families for their whole journey, from their high school preparation years right through to US college graduation.
Well, welcome to all of our In the Huddle listeners. This podcast, we are sneaking it in with sophomore soccer player Katie Jones before she heads back to SOKA University on next Tuesday, she tells me. So in this podcast, Katie, I'm going to be talking to Katie about her experience so far, the recruiting process, some advice for student athletes going through the process, and just to give all of our listeners a feel of what her experience has been, what she's looking forward to, and all of those fun things. So, Katie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And you just said you're packing, so heading back next Tuesday after your summer break here.
Yep, be heading back next Tuesday morning. Straight back into training, and I'm really looking forward to that part of it.
Yeah, good. Has it been nice being home over the summer? Because it's a big break, isn't it, for those who don't know?
Yeah, it has been really nice being at home. Being able to see my family has been a big part of it for me. And also I've just been working, so saving up a bit of money, because it's nice to have some spending money while I'm there.
Yeah, nice to not have to ring home and ask for some.
Yeah.
And are you looking forward to going back? Because I can imagine you were very much looking forward to coming home and seeing everyone, but now that you're getting closer to going again, are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I am looking forward to going back, in particular to see all of my teammates, and that I think in my first year we made some really strong bonds, and that's definitely a part I'm looking forward to. And also just the more intense training. I definitely like that aspect of it compared to here.
Does it feel different now, going back for your sophomore year? So that's, your second year, you're not a freshman anymore. So I can imagine, when you went, the first time, it was very different feelings to leaving this time. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, because I think last time I was more like I didn't exactly know what I was heading towards kind of thing. But this time I know what to expect, and I know there's going to be familiar faces, and so definitely a lot less nerves in that aspect, but also just looking forward to increase my studies and that as well, kind of get into some of the more upper level courses, which will be nice.
Excellent. Well, again, we had a chat before we started recording for the podcast, and I said to you then, and I'll say it now, I cannot believe that you're in your sophomore year. It feels like, I remember, and we caught up a couple of weeks ago, and I remember saying to you and your dad that I remember meeting you guys. I remember you coming up. We were hosting a booth, somewhere, and you guys came up, and you'd come specifically, which I did not know, to meet with us and to see us there. What if you go back to that Katie? Okay, so however many years ago that was now, take your mind back. What interested you in this pathway? What sparked it for you? How did you learn about it? Tell me about those initial thoughts and investigation into it.
Well, I guess initially I kind of had known since middle school that I knew about this pathway. Didn't know as much about it as obviously I did as I started the recruiting process. But I knew it was something I wanted to do, particularly because of the soccer side of it, because everybody says the women's soccer programs over in the US are so much higher quality, and if you want to go somewhere, that's the best place to be. So that was definitely a big drive for me, was the athletic side of it. And then as I got older, kind of into my last years of school, I knew I wanted to go to uni as well. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And this is also kind of a good pathway for that, because everything's very open with academics. I've found it compared to here. But yeah, I didn't know too much about the pathway until meeting with you guys at Study and Play. I think that definitely made things a lot clearer for me, because as much as you can research, it still kind of wasn't very clear, and like how to get there was also not overly clear. But working with study and play has been very helpful for me.
Oh, well, that's nice. Thanks. I'm glad. That I'm probably jumping forward a few questions, but you touched on it about, the level of soccer, of women's soccer in the US, and that is what initially drew you to this pathway about wanting to, continue your soccer at the highest level you could. So, from playing NPL, to going to, SOKA, so University of America, which is an NAIA college, okay? So, for those who don't know, NAIA is a division, a grouping of colleges. So there's NCAA, NAIA, and NJCAA, so junior college, lots of acronyms. I'll be doing a test at the end of this for everyone listening. But coming from NPL here and going to, NAIA competition, how would you describe the soccer level for those that don't know?
I think is a bit higher in the NAIA. Definitely, well, I mean, people who play soccer, I think, will understand this, but definitely a lot faster pace and kind of a different style. But I think the big difference is really the training. Like, you're getting so much more training and more games, and I personally think it's higher, especially because here in the NPL it depends on kind of which team you're playing for. There's always some really strong teams, and then some teams that aren't so strong. Whereas I find in the NAIA, a lot of the teams are all really strong, and it's a competitive league, which I also like. Yeah,
right. So just sheer volume and competitiveness is the key differences there. Awesome. And is it, I suppose, what did you think going over there? Is it different to what you thought? Like, from a soccer perspective, what have been some of the things that have shocked you?
I guess kind of the style is a bit different. Even my parents have noticed that watching games and things like that. So definitely at first was kind of a learning curve, and like learning how to play like the shape, and because it is still a very similar formation to what I was used to, but just there's still differences in the playing style, and obviously that's based on the coach as well. But I think I wasn't really sure what to expect from the soccer side, because obviously I hadn't been over there and I hadn't seen any games or anything like that because of COVID as well. So kind of just went in head first.
Went open mind and head first. Yeah, nice. It's a good way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to take you back again, to thinking, going through this process. You've already touched on the recruiting process. How did you find the recruiting process? Were there pockets of stress? Did you feel anxious? Or was it just exciting and great to speak with coaches? How did you find it for your experience?
I thought it was I was really excited when you'd have a coach reach out and contact you. I was definitely very nervous person when it came to like video calls and things like that. But I think as I spoke to more coaches and worked my way through it, I felt more confident, as well as the study and play questions on the portal. I also found them really helpful, and I felt a lot more prepared than just going in not really having kind of a game plan and that. But I had Ellen, I know she no longer works at Study and Play, but I found her really helpful, and she was always a really good communicator, so that also made the process a lot easier, I think, for me, because everything was super clear and organized.
And I know this obviously is all audio, but if you could see me now, I've got a big smile on my face when you say that about Ellen, because Ellen, you're right, such a good communicator, so thorough, so meticulous in how she worked with her student athletes. So Ellen's a good egg. Would there be anything that you would have done differently in the recruiting process looking back now?
I think I possibly could have waited a bit longer, I suppose, with some of the offers and things like that. I mean, I am happy with my choice in the end, but I think I definitely could have maybe explored some of the options a bit more thoroughly, and that because I know I had kind of closed off some of the opportunities that I had. But apart from that, I was pretty happy with the recruiting process.
Why do you think you did that? Like, if you look back, were you just keen to know where you were going and get it sorted?
I think that was also part of it, that I did want to kind of finalize it. But at the same time, I knew where I wanted to be. And there were some things that they were just straight no's for me, things like location and things like that. So I guess if I had have looked into it more, it might have changed my mind. It might not have. But I guess I definitely I knew what I wanted out of the uni.
And when you think about what you wanted back then, right, you've mentioned location as one of your key deciding factors. Again, going back, and why I'm just asking this is there's, lots of student athletes and families who will be listening to this that are going through the process, whether they're in coach communication now or they're about to embark on it or they're even thinking about this process. So with what you were considering at that time and what your key factors were, can you share with us what your key factors were and whether now that you're there in the system, in the US, collegiate system, you understand it more, whether you would have changed the order of those or added different things in that you would have considered more than others?
I think so. As I mentioned before, location was a big one for me. I really like the beach and the coast and that kind of stuff, as well as like the climate, because I know some places in the US the weather can be very, very cold or and things like that. And I'm not really a person that likes the cold that much. That definitely came into it for me. Another thing was the housing. That kind of really mattered for me because I knew personally I didn't want to live like on campus in a place where I was sharing a bathroom with 20 people or so. Like that I didn't feel like that was for me because I didn't feel like that would be like home. Because it's not like mine in a way. So that definitely had a big impact as well. And I'm really happy with what I have now. But and then I guess also the on the soccer side of things, it was really important with the coach that like made a good connection, even though it was only over Zoom. Can still tell, and that was really important for me because there's nothing worse than having a coach that you don't get on with or just can't think of anything worse. One thing that I didn't really consider that I probably would have now, just knowing like being at SOKA and the area, things like obviously I don't have a car in the US, but I would have considered like walkability, I guess, because I know I looked at a few places in cities and then places that were not in the city, I guess. And I think that's like if you want to go out and do a lot of things, I think that's something also to consider.
So proximity.
That I didn't think too much about.
Proximity to things. And so I know you're in California, but what are you near? What's near you, at SOKA?
So we have Laguna Beach, which is a really nice kind of well-known beach. Is about 20 minutes away. And then we have Disneyland is 40 minutes. And then kind of an hour north is LA and Hollywood. And about an hour to an hour and a half south is San Diego. So it is a very nice location. That was definitely something that came into it for me.
Yeah, great. And do you get much time to explore those areas, or have you had much time to date to look at those types of places?
We have had a bit of time, not as much as I would have thought, to be honest. But we definitely have gone out into some of those areas, and I've also gone to visit like the homes of my teammates and that, some of them that live in California. So that's also nice to see those areas. Like I've been up to Northern California and things like that, which was also nice.
Yeah. So getting the real home experience. Yeah, that's cool. So when you were talking with the coach from SOKA, how many times did you connect with coach? Was it, a couple of Zooms? Was it more than that? How frequent was the communication? Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
From my memory, because it is a while ago now,
True.
I think I might have had Zoom calls maybe 3 times with the coach, although I think it was even the first time I spoke to him, he was already saying to like start the application process, and then like the following calls after that was kind of just me asking some more questions and clarifying some things and that. I didn't speak with the assistant coach at the time, who is now the head coach, but I met with her later on Zoom, which was also nice.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. If players can do that, is to meet with more than one of the coaching staff, maybe. I think I'd recommend that as well, if that's possible.
And that's, because in case coach moves, right?
Yeah.
In case they move to another
Yeah, definitely that. And also, I think, like, the assistant coaches also have a big role in the team. Like, it's not just the head coach that you're going to be in contact with, like, every day, pretty much. Yeah. So I think that's also a big thing to consider.
Yeah, okay. That's good advice. You've already, touched on some of these things about why you chose SOKA, but tell us what were the main reasons that this university to you was, okay, I believe that this is my right fit.
So obviously, as I mentioned, the coach I really liked and things like that, as well as the location. Another thing was, when I had looked on the university's website, the academics also sounded really good and really interesting, especially for what I wanted to do in the science kind of area. Their website they're having more advances in that, I guess.
Yes.
It's probably not the best wording for that, sorry.
So what are you studying? What is your intended major?
So at the moment, because SOKA is actually a liberal arts college, but my concentration will be life sciences, and it'll be biology focused.
Awesome. And how did you find settling into the academic side of things? Because that's new as well. Everything is new. Your location, your team, your coach, everything. But the system that you're in, that you're studying in, is also very different too. How did you find transitioning into that?
I think at first it was a bit of adjustment, especially because obviously I graduated at the end of 2020, and then I went over in August of the following year. So it's kind of just getting back into that routine. The studies itself, I didn't find that too much of an adjustment. It is just, I found it was a bit more of a workload. Some of it not as difficult, but it still is a bit more work to do. So that was definitely something to adjust to. More homework and things like that, definitely.
And do you have much support as a student athlete over there? Like, what's the support network like?
Yes, I guess we're supported by our teammates and our coaches and that as well. But there's also like programs they kind of have put in place. Like it's called Study Hall, and all of the freshmen have to do it for their first semester. And you have to go, there's a study room down actually near the gym, and you have to do 4 hours a week of that.
Yeah, right.
So they're helping in that area, and also like maintaining a GPA, but there's tutors and all of that on campus that you can go and see, and all of my professors have been happy to help with whatever is needed. They want you to reach out and happy to help with anything.
Well, that's good. That's good. So would you explain, I suppose, what a typical day looks like for you? Wake up and then what? What is it?
So during the fall semester, so typically I wake up, some days I go to breakfast first, the like dining area. And then some days I'll have 2 classes or I'll have 3 classes. I always kind of have a morning class, and then I'll go to that possibly of 2 in the morning, then go to lunch. Normally lunch is really nice. Everyone sits all of the girls and the guys team as well. We all sit and eat lunch together, which is kind of nice just to catch up during the day. And then I'll either head to like an afternoon class or back to my room to do some study or take a nap if I'm feeling a little tired. And then we have training in the afternoon we normally train 4:30 to 6:30, and then we come up for dinner. And then afterwards it's just study or just hanging out with my friends, pretty much is my typical day.
Does it look any different when you're in season?
That's normally when we are in season, although the afternoons tend to change because of like some weeks we'll play on Thursdays and things like that. So days will be cut short and we'll have a game day midweek or on the traveling, so have time off classes. And that in the spring the schedule was a bit different. We had a set schedule for the week, but each day was kind of different. We'd have like some morning trainings, some afternoon training, some gym sessions.
Yeah.
But pretty consistent throughout the semester.
And have you had the opportunity as a team to do much travel to compete?
Because of COVID, we were a little limited last year, but we went to Lake Tahoe for one of our games, and that was really nice. Went down to the lake while we were there, which was good. And just mainly went to Northern California. But I know this year, even at the start of September, we're going to Portland, I believe. And we've got this season going to Arizona and up to North California again, which should be good.
Excellent. So, a bit more movement this semester.
Yeah.
Nice. That'll be good. And is that all done by bus? Like, are you on team bus?
When we went to Northern California, we flew to Sacramento, and then we got a bus about 2 hours. And so all of our away trips, our bigger away trips, we always have 2 games. So when we went up last time, we flew to Sacramento, got a bus to our first game, and then we bussed across, so more to the coast. We had like a day in between, and that was a 4-hour bus drive. And then we played, and then we went back to the airport. But it was still much nicer to fly, at least that part of the way.
One part of it. Yeah. Otherwise, that's some significant team bonding in a bus, right?
Yeah.
All of those
I think it would have been about 8 hours at least each way otherwise.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. You mentioned before about the time from graduating from high school and then, the US academic year starting in the August. So that's, 8-9 months where, you're not studying or you're not doing, anything really structured, I suppose. During that time, now that you know what it's like to start college over there, to hit the ground running, all of those things, would you have done anything different in preparation for college during that time? In hindsight, or what some tips that you might have?
I think I was pretty happy with how I prepared in the end, because I kind of did try and keep a structure in that. I got a full-time job over that time period. But I think something that was really important and that helped me was that right before I went, about a month before, I stopped working and I really started to like focus on my training and like organizing all my stuff, because I think it also just made me feel more confident and ready, I guess. But I think it's also good not to just like, you need to do something over that time period, not just nothing, because I think that definitely helps.
Yes. And there is an expectation, right, that you're arriving fit, that you're arriving, game fit, and so there's definitely, as well as whether it's working to get some extra money for when you're over there or whatever it might be, it's still super important, to whatever sport you're playing, to train at the highest level that you can and keep competing as much as you can in the lead up.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that we did get, and we got it again this year, is our coach actually sent out a summer training schedule, which I found was really helpful as
Yeah,
well.
right.
Yeah, so that's been good. It has a bit of like fitness on it, and then some like strength work and soccer, but I think that was really good because it kind of keeps you on track and can kind of tick it off when you've done it. But I think that also helps me prepare a lot as well.
Yeah, and is that different to a training schedule you'd been given here?
Definitely a lot more in depth and things like that. Kind of covers more aspects of the athlete, especially this year. Like I know our training schedule for this summer even included things like mobility and yoga and things like that, which aren't in the typical schedule, but I think have actually been really helpful for me with that aspect of it. So it's kind of just the whole athlete, I guess I feel like it works on. So I found it really helpful.
Good. And if you could, if you think of girls right now playing, soccer and the NPL, and they're looking to pursue this pathway, if you could help prepare them in any way, what would you say, or what advice would you give them based on your experience?
Well, I'd definitely say to start with, try and get as much game film of you as possible. So try and play as much as possible. I think that's a first step. And then just, keep working at it and kind of persist with the pathway, I think is and try and find the right fit for you rather than rushing into something. Because I know I had a lot of coaches on the first time I spoke to them, they were like, "Are we ready for you to apply?" And some of those I know weren't the best fit for me. So I think it's definitely important to take a lot of consideration into it and things like that. Just playing at the highest level you can, I think, is a good way to prepare as well.
Did you find it hard in year 12 balancing academics, Australian high school system, which is full on, your soccer at a really high level, but then also managing this pathway, making time to speak with coaches, having to email them, potentially going through admissions processes and things like that. How did you find it?
I personally didn't find it too overwhelming, but I just tried to stay as organized as possible with it, especially scheduling and like the calls with the coaches. Like I felt like the sooner I had like them organized, the better I felt about it, it was just easier. Which it also helped at school. I had a study line because I took all ATAR subjects, so they would give that to me. So when I had some spare time at school in that, I'd work on like the applications and things like that, which really helped.
Excellent. So scheduling out. So Claire from our team that's going to make her heart sing, because that is, what she tries to work with our student athletes on is scheduling out some time, instead of this just flowing in and out, of your inbox and your mind, is to schedule time for it each week, in this spare, this is what I'm doing this Saturday morning. I'm going to schedule my coaching calls if I can and things like that. So taking it as another subject even, or thing in your life is a really good way to think about it. Another question around, high school here in Australia. When did you make the decision? Were you still in year 12 when you made the decision to go to SOKA, or had you graduated high school? Do you remember?
I had actually graduated, because how SOKA works was that they have you have to apply by a certain date, and they announce on the whether you get accepted or denied. So I had to wait until that date to see if I got accepted into the program. I had already applied to SOKA before I had graduated, so I knew that it was an option, but I just hadn't really finalized it yet until earlier in the year.
So then how did you manage with, and you may not have had any issues with it, but a common thread I see across, student athletes and the families that we work with is that because of our system, in September of year 12, that's when you're putting in your university preferences or, whatever it might be. And everyone is asking you, where are you going? What are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? And when you're not on that same pathway as everyone else, what I can find is that can create anxiety around, oh my goodness, I don't know where I'm going yet. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Did you experience that at all?
I guess definitely being on the different pathway, I felt like I had a lot less support from my school as well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get so much as anxiety, because like anxiousness, because I had a few offers at the time already, so that definitely helped me feel more confident about it. But I did actually apply to unis here as well. I did complete the pathway, even though I knew that it was really just a backup. And I think that's a really good idea, because I got accepted into UQ before I decided where I was going. And I had just deferred it for a year, so that I knew that if I really needed it, it would be there.
Yeah, and
I found that really helpful.
And it's so good to hear that from you, Katie, because we always recommend that of our student athletes to apply, hear, accept, and defer, because no matter what in life, you just always want options. So to close that off by not even doing that, even if hand on heart that this is, the US college pathway is what you want and that is all you're going to do, just to have that there too it's just good to know you haven't just ruled something out entirely.
Yeah, I think that was definitely my attitude towards it, was I really knew I wanted to go to the US, but I knew that I needed to have some type of backup at least.
Yeah, good. And to be honest, you just want options in life no matter what we're talking about, right? So it's a good thing. So how has your family been, with you being in America? How did they, because there's obviously you transitioning to being in the US, but then there's, your family back here, transition, going through their own transition. How's that been?
I think it was definitely hard for them, but like we FaceTimed all the time, and that really helped. Like we kind of had like a set time. Some week, like I'd always talk with my mom when she has her days off, and then talk with the rest of my family on the weekends and things like that. I think that really helped them as well. It is nice though for me to be back, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to get, that's a significant break that you get. It's a good,
definitely.
Could be nearly 12 weeks, if you wanted it to be as well. So that's a really nice big, you're not rushing, you're not trying to see everyone and visit everyone in 2 weeks. You're actually getting to plug back into life here for a little bit before you go back. And do you think mum and dad will go over?
They are, actually. They're coming over in the end of September, so they can see some games as well, and they're going to go to San Diego, so have a little bit of a holiday as well.
Yeah, nice. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, I am.
I think
it'll be really good.
It'll be so good for them, because you didn't go and visit or anything like that.
Yeah.
When. So for them to be able to see it, touch it.
They're looking forward to seeing the campus and all of the area and that type of stuff as well. Yeah. So it should be really nice.
Yeah, because then when you're talking about I went here or I did this, they can picture it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Definitely.
Awesome. So what are I suppose to wrap up, Katie, what are your goals for the next year? Because I'm hopeful that we can keep checking in like this and in a year's time, let's talk and see what you've been doing and what going into your junior year feels like. But, for your sophomore year, what are your goals? What are your plans?
I guess for my sophomore year, for my soccer in particular, I really want to cement like a starting position, I guess, in the position that I want to play, preferably, and just like cementing, like getting that a bit more game time and things like that. I guess with my academics, they're going well, so I just want to keep it at a high standard, I guess, and just staying on top of that, I think. So actually easier. I found the spring semester a lot easier just because I was more organized, even though I was taking more classes. So I think that's a big thing for me, just to stay on top of everything, not to get behind. But I think that's about it for my goals. Just have another good year.
Awesome.
Would be nice.
Yeah, really good. And a visit from mum and dad in that year. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, whilst you're home on your summer break. It's really, really helpful to student athletes, to families, that are in this process, thinking about it. And when we had our study and play family catch up, that you and dad were at, that's, what we were saying then too. It's just for student athletes who are in year 10, year 9, to know that you were a high school student too, and you met us and went through this process, and to just hear your experience, I think is just so valuable, because there might, there's been so many great little nuggets of gold of advice, in here for them to take hold of. And, it can be a stressful little period, the final years of high school. So those bits of advice from someone who's been there, done that, and is now living out, their dream is really, really valuable. So, Katie, thank you for joining us on In the Huddle. Really appreciate it, and can't wait to see how your sophomore year unfolds.
Well, thank you for having me.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.